Gravity Falls hides a billion-year-old prophecy inside a kid's cartoon, and almost nobody noticed when it first aired. A flat triangle from a burning second dimension waited trillions of years to crawl into our world through a portal built by a six-fingered scientist. Two estranged twin brothers carried a fight from a New Jersey beach, all the way into another universe. A memory gun built in a basement made a man forget his own genius. A girl with a grappling hook and her brother with a pine tree hat stood between Earth and a triangle older than the galaxy. A wheel of 10 symbols was always sitting on a piece of cloth in the gift shop, and the symbols were the people. A statue of the villain was buried in a real forest in Oregon, and fans flew across the planet to dig it up. A talking salamander promised one final return inside a backwards whisper. The town's founder was a fraud. The local handyman owned the building by the end, and the richest family in the valley signed a deed in blood. Every credit roll closed with a code, and every code closed a loop. 2 seasons, 40 episodes, 40,000 secrets. Tonight, we sit with Gravity Falls and walk through the facts you need to know. So settle in, breathe out, and let the falls pull you under. The show is built from a real childhood. Before any of the weirdness, there were 2 kids in California. Alex Hirsch was born June 18, 1985, in Piedmont, California, and he had a twin sister named Ariel. That fact alone explains more of the show than any cipher ever could. Dipper is Alex, Mabel is Ariel. The summers they spent together, the way they pranked each other, the way one kid was anxious and the other was unstoppable. All of it got poured into the Mystery Shack like syrup into a pit cola. Hirsch said it plainly in an interview. The main relationship in the show is 100% his from his own childhood, and Grunkle Stan is very much inspired by his grandpa Stan, a guy that told tall tales and would mess with the family to get a rise out of them. So when Stan tells Dipper that the world is a meaningless rock spinning in space, and you should grab what you can before you die, that line came from a real grandfather in a real living room, telling stories to 2 real kids. That detail matters because the show feels like a memory, not a fantasy, a memory. The dust on the cash register, the cracked vinyl in the gift shop, the smell of old wood in the attic. Hirsch has said the series is loosely based on the summers he spent camping with his great-aunt, and both he and his sister wished they would have the adventures Dipper and Mabel get. There's also the small fact that Alex went to Cal Arts, and his student film caught the eye of a Disney executive named Mike Moon. Moon offered Hirsch the chance to develop a show for the Disney Channel, and the rest is a triangle eating reality. Now hold on to that idea, because we are going to keep coming back to it. The show is small and personal. It is also enormous and cosmic, both things at once. That is the whole trick. The Pines twins have a real birthday. Here's a quiet fact that breaks people the first time they hear it. Dipper and Mabel Pines were born on August 31st, 1999. That means inside the show, they turned 13 during the Season 2 episode, Dipper and Mabel versus the Future, and they were 12 for almost the entire run of the series. 12. That is younger than most viewers thought. The summer they spend in Gravity Falls is the summer of 2012. The series itself first aired June 15, 2012 on the Disney Channel. So the show was running in real time with the calendar inside the show. Dipper's real name is Mason. He is named for the Dipper constellation birthmark on his forehead. The birthmark is shaped like the Big Dipper, which is the same shape as the constellation his family hat references. Mabel's name is just Mabel, no code, no reveal, just Mabel. Some fans think this is unfair. Mabel does not care. And here's where the show starts laying tracks for things you will not pay off. Until 2 whole seasons later, the very first time we meet the twins in the episode Tourist Trapped, Dipper finds Journal 3 in a hollow tree. He thinks Norman, Mabel's new boyfriend, is a zombie. He turns the pages of the journal looking for the zombie entry. He misses it and opens the gnome page instead. Norman is gnomes. Norman is many gnomes in a coat. That seems like a joke. It is not just a joke. The TV Tropes forums caught this years ago. Dipper tells Mabel, "I'm telling you, Norman is not what he seems." The phrase "not what he seems" later becomes the title of the Season 2 mid-season finale. The episode that breaks the show in half. The exact moment that Stan's true identity collapses everything we thought we knew is foreshadowed in the very first episode by a kid trying to figure out if his sister's date is undead. The whole show is built like that. Words come back. Symbols come back. Even objects come back. The grappling hook Mabel buys in the gift shop in episode 1 is the same grappling hook she uses to escape Bill's prison bubble in the finale. Nothing in Gravity Falls is ever wasted. The opening theme is a warning. You probably hummed it without thinking. The Brad Breek theme, the twangy guitar, the spooky bell. It plays in your head right now if you have ever watched the show. But the opening title sequence is not just a credit reel. It is a coded message played before every single episode of the series. If you slow down the theme song, the very last seconds contain a reversed whisper. The whisper is in code, and the code is a Caesar cipher shifted by 3 letters. Throughout some points of the series, the opening changes slightly, and there is a reversed whisper at the end of the theme that tells you how to decode messages. Decoded, the whisper says 3 letters back. That tells the viewer how to read every credit card cryptogram for the rest of Season 1. Then in Season 2, the cipher changes. Now it is an @bash cipher, which is a reversed alphabet. The reversed whisper teaches you that too. By the second half of Season 2, the cipher gets even harder. It becomes a keyed Vigenère cipher, which requires a keyword, and the keyword changes by episode. This is a children's cartoon on the Disney Channel, teaching its viewers to read cipher classes that real cryptographers use. And the messages those ciphers carried were not throwaway jokes. The end credits of Not What He Seems decoded to The Original Mystery Twins, which hinted at Stan and Ford's childhood paralleling Dipper and Mabel's. Another Vigenère cipher from the same episode read, "Heish lying? Someone you know is hiding the truth," pointing directly at Stan before the audience had any reason to suspect him. And in the Season 1 finale, Gideon Rises, the cryptogram decoded too. The prophecy will be fulfilled, a line that telegraphed Bill's whole arc more than a year before Weirdmageddon ever happened. The opening is the manual. Most viewers never opened the manual, and somewhere in a forest, in a forgotten dimension, a triangle was laughing about it. We are going to come back to that triangle. We are going to come back to him many times. The town itself is the mystery. So what is Gravity Falls, actually? Not the show, the town. The official answer, the one you can pull from the Gravity Falls wiki, is that it is a small town in Oregon known for hosting a heavy concentration of paranormal anomalies. The real answer, the one the show buries in lore drops across both seasons, is that Gravity Falls sits on a thin spot in reality, a crack between dimensions. Bill Cipher's home dimension, the Nightmare Realm, was a collapsing intergalactic foam between universes. He could not enter ours, he could only press up against it. And the place where the pressing was thinnest, the place where the membrane was almost paper, was a forest valley in the American Pacific Northwest. The weirdness in the town, the gnomes, the merpeople, the manitars, the lake monsters, the unicorns, the hide-behind, all of it leaks through from elsewhere. Ford figured this out before anyone. He moved to Gravity Falls in the 1970s to study these anomalies, and he kept his findings in 3 handwritten journals, bound in red leather with a gold 6-fingered hand on each cover. The journals are everywhere. They are in the woods. They are in the bunker. They are inside the walls of the Mystery Shack itself. Whoever holds all 3 journals at once unlocks the secret of the portal. But before we get to portals and to the Pines twins finding journals in the woods, we need to slow down and meet the man who built the town's whole tourist trap on a lie. Because Stan, the man we know in episode 1, is not the man he says he is. And before Stan was Stan, there were 2 boys on a beach in New Jersey. That is where Gravity Falls really starts. 2 brothers, 1 beach, and a punch that changed the world. Before Grunkle Stan was Grunkle Stan, he was Stanley, just Stanley, a kid in a tank top with a black eye and a brother he would have died for. The episode A Tale of Two Stans is the one most fans point to when they say Gravity Falls is one of the best animated shows ever made. It aired July 13, 2015, and it broke the internet for a week. The episode opens with 2 boys, Stanley and Stanford Pines, running and peeking through a board covering an abandoned cave. They write their names on the wall to claim it. They are exceptionally close. Though Stanley was a slacker troublemaker, and Stanford a straight-A student, Stanley protected his brother from bullies who mocked him for his polydactyly. Polydactyly. That is the medical word for being born with 6 fingers on each hand. Ford has it. That is why his journal cover shows a 6-fingered hand. That is also why kids on the beach gave him a hard time, and that is why Stanley spent his childhood throwing punches for him. The two of them often dreamed of sailing away on a boat called the Stan-O-War to live a life of adventure. Then came the perpetual motion machine. In high school, Stanford built a perpetual motion machine poised to grant him entry to his dream college across the country. He called it West Coast Tech. He was so close. The recruiter came. The presentation was that morning, and the night before, Stanley, jealous, scared, sad about being left behind, accidentally wrecked the machine. Ford accused Stanley of doing it on purpose. Their father, a pawn shop owner named Philbrick Pines, did not wait for the truth. He threw Stanley out into the cold, told him not to come back until he made the family rich, and locked the door behind him. That was the last home Stanley had for 30 years. What follows is the saddest montage in the series. Stanley living out of a car, selling fake products door to door, the sham total, the Stanlard vacuum. Each one falls apart in someone's living room. Each one earns him a beating in a back alley. He assumed fake identities after being banned from numerous states, imprisoned in 3 different countries, reduced to renting a room at the Dead End Flats motel, and remaining in debt to a man named Rico. Then one day, a postcard arrived. From Stanford. The first contact in over 10 years, it said, "Come to Gravity Falls, now." The portal that tore a family apart. Stanley drove out to Oregon, climbed up to his brother's cabin in the woods, and walked into a man losing his mind. Ford was barricaded in. He had stopped sleeping. He had a crossbow trained on the door. He told Stanley everything in a rush. The journals, the portal, the friend who saw too much and ran. He told him to take Journal 1, leave the country, and bury it somewhere no one would ever find it. Stanley was hurt. He had driven across the continent, and his brother was asking him to leave again. He said so. They argued. The argument escalated. Stanford retaliated by shouting that Stanley had ruined his own life, and burning Stanley's back on the portal's control console, resulting in him acquiring a tattoo as the portal accidentally activated. So that is what the mysterious tattoo is. The tattoo that fans had argued about for years on Tumblr forums, the mark fans had decoded as cosmic, as cult, as alien. It is a burn scar from his own brother from a console. In the heat of an argument, the mark that fans had analyzed frame by frame is the literal scar of one of the worst nights of Stanley's life. Then it happened in a fit of anger. Stanley pushed Stanford toward the portal, causing him to get too close and get sucked in. As Ford disappeared into the swirling triangle, he threw the first journal to Stanley, trapping himself in another dimension, leaving him lost with his fate unknown. The portal shut off. Ford was gone. Stanley was alone in a basement with a machine he could not understand, and a brother he might never see again. That is the moment Stanley Pines became Grunkle Stan. Not by choice, by guilt. Now, I want you to hold a thought before we move on, because the show drops a hint about this entire backstory in the very first season. In the episode Dreamscaperers, when Dipper, Mabel, and Suze enter Stan's mind to find a memory, the dream Stan is having right before they enter is him miming pushing someone and saying no. He is reliving the portal accident in his sleep every night for 30 years. The show told us. It told us in season 1, and we did not know what we were looking at. Stan became his brother. Here is what happened next, and it is the part of the timeline that most casual fans skip past too fast. Stanley could not leave Gravity Falls. He had to fix the portal. The portal needed all 3 journals to work, and he only had 1. So he stayed in his brother's cabin and tried every night to bring Ford back. He ran out of food. He went into town for groceries. He had no money. The store owner saw a man with Ford's face and assumed he was Ford, the strange science guy who lived in the woods. They asked questions. They were curious. They wanted to know what was inside the shack. So Stanley made a choice. He let them think he was his brother. He charged them admission. The Mystery Shack's first show was Stanley standing in Ford's living room, pointing at oddities Ford had collected and making up wild stories on the spot. He took a fake name. He took his brother's name. He became Stanford Pines, the man with the eye patch and the fez, while the real Stanford floated lost across 30 dimensions. This is the central con of the whole show. The character we call Stanford Pines for the entire first season is not Stanford. He is Stanley pretending to be Stanford so he can use his brother's name to fund the rescue mission to get his real brother back. He spent 30 years covertly working to bring his own twin brother, the real Stanford Pines, back to their reality. After being sucked through an interdimensional portal, 30 years, the Mystery Shack itself, the wax figures, the tour buses, the cheap merchandise, the entire tourist trap economy of Gravity Falls, Oregon exists because one brother was trying to undo a fight from a beach in New Jersey. That is what you're watching when you watch Stan rip off tourists. You are watching a man fund a multi-decade rescue mission with cardboard knickknacks. The names under the names. Stanley collected aliases the way Mabel collects sweaters. The Wikipedia page lists them. Steve Pennington, Stetson Pinefield, Andrew 8-Ball Alcatraz, Hal Forrester. Each one was a getaway from a different jam, in a different state, in a different decade. Each one is a hint at a year of his life we never see. Because the show only gives us the highlight reel of his crimes during the boxing van montage in A Tale of Two Stans. One alias stands out. Andrew 8-Ball Alcatraz. If you have read the Book of Bill, you know that 8-Ball is also the name of one of Bill Cipher's henchmaniacs, a character with a literal 8-ball for a head. Two characters in the Gravity Falls universe carry that name. Stanley as a con, Bill's lackey as a real demon. Are they connected? Probably not, but that is the kind of detail that drives fans into spreadsheets. The kind of detail that turns rewatches into rabbit holes. There is also the line, the one Stan throws away in Season 1 and nobody notices on first watch. He says to Seuss casually about his ex-wife, Marilyn. Stan had a wife, Marilyn Rosenstein. We never see her. We never learn what happened. She is just a name in the wiki and a single line in a single episode. Gravity Falls is full of these threads. A name, a date, a hand-painted sign in a background shot. Threads that go nowhere and hint at everywhere. That is the texture of the show. You feel like you're standing in a room full of furniture, and every drawer in every dresser has another story in it. The 3 journals were written by one person but 2 brains. Now we have to talk about the journals, because they are the center of the show, and the rules of how they work are weirder than people remember. There are 3 journals. Each has a 6-fingered gold hand on the cover. Each has a number. Ford wrote all 3. He wrote them across a period of about 6 years in the 1970s and 1980s. While living in Gravity Falls and studying its anomalies, Journal 1 has the basics. Journal 2 has the deeper monsters. Journal 3 has the portal blueprints, the prophecy, and the section on Bill Cipher. But there is a complication, and the show plants it carefully. Ford did not write the journals alone. He had a partner, Fiddleford McGucket. McGucket, Old Man McGucket. The hillbilly guy who lives in the dump and rambles about doomsday. He is one of the cleverest engineers in the history of the show. He went to college with Ford. He helped Ford build the portal. And when the first test of the portal went wrong, McGucket saw something inside that broke him. In 1982, Fiddleford McGucket founded the Blind Eye Society, intending to help remove some unwanted memories from others using a device he created and used continuously on himself. He invented the memory gun. He pointed it at his own head. He erased his own genius from his own brain because the things he had seen were too much to carry. That is why McGucket talks like he does. That is why he lives in the dump. That is why he plays the banjo and laughs at nothing. He used to be a Stanford-level scientist. He used to be Ford's best friend. And he chose to forget, over and over, until there was almost nothing left of the man who had once stood next to the portal. There is an episode called Society of the Blind Eye. Season 2, Episode 7. It is the episode where we learn all of this. The kids follow McGucket through a museum into a secret tunnel and find a room full of glass jars. Each jar holds a memory. Each jar is labeled with a name. Preston Northwest's name is on one of the jars. Pacifica's father, the richest man in town, has had his memories erased. And one jar has a name we never get an answer to. Geoffrey Cannock. The name is on the shelf right next to McGuckets. The position alone suggests Geoffrey Cannock was someone important. Maybe someone who saw something he was not supposed to see. Maybe someone whose erased memories held the key to something bigger. The series ended without ever explaining who he was. His name sits on a glass jar somewhere in the Gravity Falls Museum, and the audience never gets the rest of the story. You will hear a lot about Geoffrey Cannock on the fan forums. People have built whole theories around him. He is one of the show's biggest open ends. The Blind Eye was a town-wide conspiracy. The Blind Eye Society is one of the deeper rabbit holes the show drops on you. It is not just a group. It is a town-wide brainwashing organization that meets at night and wipes the minds of citizens who witness paranormal activity. Lazy Susan becomes their latest victim in the Season 2 episode, when she is taken away after spotting a group of gnomes. The hooded men chant in Latin as they erase her. The chant is Annuit Coeptus, Novus Ordo Seclorum. Those are the Latin phrases printed on the back of an American $1 bill. The same phrases under the all-seeing eye over the pyramid. That is not a coincidence. The show is openly tying its mind-wiping cult to the most famous conspiracy symbol in American iconography. Eye over pyramid. Pyramid like Bill Cipher's body, eye like Bill Cipher's eye. The show is not subtle, it is just patient. When Dipper, Mabel, Wendy Suze, and McGucket break into the society's hideout, they discover the members are all townspeople. People we have seen. People we know. The dentist, the mayor. Bud Gleeful, Gideon's father, Toby Determined, the local newspaper reporter. The town has been quietly forgetting itself for 30 years, and the people doing the forgetting are the people running it from City Hall. The Blind Eye Society eventually found itself under the command of Blind Ivan, a more conniving and malicious leader than his predecessor. Ivan was the one who turned the society from McGucket's sad coping mechanism into a real cult. In the end, McGucket and the kids use the memory gun on the members themselves, erasing their memories of being in the society. Ivan ends up with permanent brain damage, similar to McGucket's, because he had no life outside the cult. It is one of the darker resolutions in the show. A children's cartoon ends a story by mind-wiping a cult leader so completely that he never recovers. And Mabel sweetly gives him a new identity as a happy minstrel. She basically writes him a personality with a wave of her hand. Mabel is more powerful than people give her credit for. We will come back to her power later. For now, file it under things to think about when you cannot sleep. The town you live in has people who do not remember things they did last year, and you might be one of them. But before we go any deeper into who lives in Gravity Falls, we have to talk about the man who built the town's whole financial empire. Because the Northwest family has a secret that is older than the journals, older than the Blind Eye, older than Stan, a secret that goes all the way back to the founding of the town, and a piece of paper that should have set everything right but never did. The richest family in the valley is built on a lie, and they signed the lie in their own blood. The Northwest family is built on a lie. If you watched Gravity Falls when it first aired, you probably hated Pacifica Northwest. That was the point. She was the rich girl with the pony, the bully in the pink dress, the kid who looked down on Mabel because Mabel wore sweaters her grandmother knitted. She had a butler, she had everything, and she made sure you knew it. But the show plays a long con with Pacifica, because it turns out everything she has, everything her family owns, every brick in the manor on the hill was stolen. The episode that pulls the rug is Northwest Mansion Mystery, Season 2, Episode 10. The Northwests throw their annual party. The party is famous. The town has been excited about it for years. Pacifica invites Dipper to investigate a ghost that has been haunting the manor. Dipper agrees because he is 12 and a ghost hunt sounds cool. Then the lumberjack ghost shows up. The ghost is not random. He has a grudge, and the grudge is 150 years old. The descendant of Nathaniel Northwest, the supposed town founder, was a fraud. Nathaniel did not found the town. He was a con artist. The original founder, the actual man who built the town, was a lumberjack. The Northwest family struck a deal with him to build their manor in exchange for opening the gates to the common folk for one party a year. The Northwests built the manor. They never opened the gates. The lumberjack died. The ghost came back. And the entire fortune of Gravity Falls' founding family rests on a promise they never kept. That is the show, a children's cartoon about a haunted mansion party, and underneath it is a parable about generational wealth, settler colonialism, and the lies rich families tell to keep their gates closed. Pacifica is the one who breaks the cycle. She opens the gates, she lets the town in. She defies her father, who has spent her entire life ringing a bell to silence her into obedience whenever she speaks out. A literal bell, like a dog. Her father conditioned her with a bell. When Pacifica opens the gates, she is also opening herself. She stops being a villain. The show treats this moment with care. She is 12. She has lived her whole life inside a cage made of money. And the moment she breaks the cage, the ghost is at peace, and the manor is still standing. By the end of the series, the Northwest family loses almost everything. After Bill is defeated, Pacifica is seen with her parents outside the sold Northwest Manor, and she is seemingly horrified when her mother informs her that she can only have one pony now. One pony. The joke is sad because it is true. They had so many ponies. The loss of all but one is a tragedy in Pacifica's world. But she is also in Mabel's llama sweater by the end. She is also at the birthday party. She is also bringing gifts. She has changed. She is not her parents anymore. That is one of the cleanest character arcs in the show, from bully to friend, from cage to open gate. And it happened because of a ghost holding a deed older than her bloodline. The deed of Gravity Falls is a running joke that is not a joke. While we are on the subject of the town being built on lies, here is one that hides in plain sight across the whole series. The Mystery Shack itself, the building Stan owns, the property at 618 Gopher Road, was never legally his. Stan has been running the shack for 30 years on a deed that does not match his name. That detail almost loses him the building in the Season 1 finale. In Gideon Rises, the Season 1 finale, the child psychic Gideon gleeful tricks Stan into signing the deed over to him. Gideon then tears down the Mystery Shack to build a tourist trap called Gideon Land. Stan is broke. The kids are kicked out. The whole adventure is over. Then Stan does the math. He realizes the deed has his name on it. His real name? Stanford Pines, which is not his name. The deed was always in his brother's name, Stanford Pines, which is not his name. The real Stanford was 30 dimensions away. Gideon can sue him for fraud, and Stan goes to jail. But Gideon cannot legally claim a property that was deeded to a different person. The deed is voided, the shack is saved, and Gideon goes to prison instead. That whole sequence is hilarious on first watch. It is just Stan being clever. On rewatch, you realize the show was confessing the central con of the entire series. The shack was never Stan's. The name on the deed was Stanford. The real Stanford was 30 dimensions away. And the lie that powered the Mystery Shack for decades almost cost Stan everything. By the end of the series, in the finale, Stan signs the shack over to a new owner. Suze becomes the new Mr. Mystery. Stan and Ford finally leave on the Stan-O War, the boat they dreamed about as kids, and they sail off to find sea monsters together. The 30-year fight ends with two old men in fishing hats going on the adventure they planned in 1960. We are going to come back to Suze in a minute, because Suze has more layers than people give him credit for. But first, we have to introduce the man who almost stole the shack, because Gideon is one of the most important villains the show ever had, and his obsession with Mabel is the engine that drives almost the entire first season. Gideon Gleeful was never Pacific. Lil Gideon shows up in Season 1, Episode 4, The Hand That Rocks the Mabel. He is 9 years old. He has a giant white pompadour. He wears a cape. He hosts a stage show in a tent called Tent of Telepathy, and the whole town thinks he is psychic. He is not. Gideon's psychic powers come entirely from Journal 2, the second of Ford's 3 journals, which somehow ended up in Gideon's hands before the series begins. Inside the journal is a spell that lets him spy on people through reflective surfaces. The amulet around his neck, the green diamond, is also from the journal. It gives him telekinesis. So everything Gideon does, the seeing visions, the floating cars, the giant robot, every supposed power is just stolen pages from Ford's research. He is a 9-year-old child running a paranormal scam by reading from a book he found. That makes him a darker mirror of Dipper. Dipper found Journal 3. Gideon has Journal 2. Both kids are smart. Both kids use the journal to investigate the town. The difference is intent. Dipper uses the journal to help his family. Gideon uses it to manipulate, control, and stalk. And his stalking of Mabel is one of the most genuinely uncomfortable arcs in the show. He wants her to be his girlfriend. She does not want to. He does not accept that. He builds a shrine to her. He cuts a piece of her hair without her consent. He arranges a wedding she did not agree to. He weaponizes the entire town against the Pines family because Mabel turned him down. The show treats this seriously. It does not play him for laughs the way other kid villains get played. Gideon is, in fan terms, a child abuser in training. He is what happens when a kid with charisma and a small magic book learns that he can make adults do what he wants. And here's the deeper layer. Gideon makes a deal with Bill Cipher. He is the first character to meet Bill in the actual world. The episode is Dreamscaperers, Season 1, Episode 19. Gideon summons Bill in a circle of candles. He asks Bill to enter Stan's mind and find the code to the shack's safe. That moment is the show pivoting. Up to that episode, the supernatural in Gravity Falls is monsters and ghosts. After Dreamscaperers, the supernatural becomes a yellow triangle with a top hat who knows you by name. Gideon let Bill into the story. Gideon is the door Bill walked through, and Gideon, like the Northwest family, ends the series different from how he started. He goes to prison. He comes out humbled. By the end of Weirdmageddon, Gideon is part of the Resistance and represents the pentagram on the Zodiac Wheel. The kid who almost destroyed the Pines family ends the series helping them save the world. That is the trick the show pulls over and over. It introduces a one-dimensional villain, then it spends 20 episodes giving you a reason to see them as a person. By the finale, every villain except Bill is also a victim. Bill is the only one the show never asks you to forgive. Seuss is not a sidekick. Now back to Seuss. Seuss Ramirez, the handyman, the big guy in the question mark shirt. The one who calls everyone dude. For most of the show, Seuss is a comic relief character. He is sweet. He is dumb. He fixes things. He eats things he should not eat. He is the heart of the Mystery Shack staff. But the show has been telling you the whole time that Seuss knows more than he lets on. His full name is Jesus Seuss Alzamirano Ramirez. Seuss is short for Jesus, pronounced the Spanish way. Yes, the character's first name is Jesus. The show never makes a big deal about it. It is just a quiet fact you only catch if you watch the storyboards or hang around the fan forums. Then there's the cryptogram from Rumble's Revenge that says, "The handyman knows more than you think." The handyman, Seuss. The show is winking at you. Seuss sees more than he says. He just does not always know what to do with what he sees. He represents the question mark symbol on the Zodiac Wheel. Out of all the 10 symbols, he is the only one whose meaning is openly, "I do not know." He is the unknown. He is the wild card. He is the one who could be anything. And when Stan retires at the end of the series, the show does not give the shack to Dipper. Even though Dipper is the obvious heir to the journal-reading, mystery-solving mantle, it gives the shack to Seuss. Because Seuss belongs to the shack, the way the shack belongs to itself. He has been there longer than the Pines twins. He has been there longer than Stan. There is also the small sad fact about Seuss's father. His dad walked out when he was a kid. Seuss waits for him to come back. There's a recurring bit where Seuss checks the mailbox for postcards. There is a postcard in Season 1. There is no postcard in Season 2. By the end of the series, Seuss has stopped checking. He has Stan instead. Stan is his dad, not by blood, by choice. Watch the episode Seuss and the Real Girl. Seuss buys a Japanese dating simulator. The game's AI, named Giffany, becomes obsessed with him. She is a sentient program with a goldfish bowl over her head. She attacks his date. Seuss has to defeat his own girlfriend, who is technically a piece of software, to be with a real human woman. That episode is one of the weirder swings the show ever takes, and it works because Seuss is sincere. He is not making fun of dating games. He is not winking at the audience. He genuinely wanted a girlfriend, and the show genuinely lets him fight a malevolent goldfish bowl AI for the chance to have one. That is the Seuss energy. Earnest, strange, underestimated. The Mystery Shack itself is a character. While we are walking through who lives in the town, we need to spend a minute on the building. The Mystery Shack, the leaning wooden tourist trap at 618 Gopher Road. The shack is based on a real place. Alex Hirsch has said in interviews that the inspiration was a roadside attraction called Confusion Hill in Northern California. Confusion Hill is a real tourist trap. It has the same kind of cheap signage, the same fake gravity tricks, the same dusty gift shop. If you ever drive up the 101 toward the Redwoods, you can stop at the place that gave us the shack. The shack also has secret rooms, a lot of them. The basement holds the portal. A second secret level holds Ford's old lab. There is a vending machine in the gift shop that hides the elevator to the bunker. There is a tour route inside the building that takes about 10 minutes and a tour route outside the building that takes you across the property. And the building is alive in a weird way. In the opening title sequence, the camera pans up the shack and the eye on the wooden sign turns to follow you. That is not a stylistic choice. That is the show telling you the building is watching. Bill Cipher's body, in his final form, will turn out to be a triangle with one eye. The shack has one eye. The eye watches you. The eye blinks. There is a fan theory well known on TV tropes that the Mystery Shack itself sits on one of the thinnest spots in reality. The reason the building can hold so many anomalies in its basement is because the building is built on a tear in the universe. That is part of why Bill is so interested in the shack. He needs the rift. The rift is under the shack. The shack is the door. Even the rug pattern on the shack floor is the same pattern as Bill's bow tie. The carpet pattern in the Mystery Shack resembles the symbol on Bill Cipher's bow tie. Stan has been walking on Bill's bow tie for 30 years. The audience walked on it too. Every time the camera passed over the floor of the gift shop. The window in the attic, the one shaped like a triangle with an eye in the middle, is also Bill. The triangle with one eye has been printed on the building from the outside. The carpet from the inside. The rug. The wallpaper. The merchandise. The whole shack is a giant Bill Cipher hidden in furniture. The triangle was always in the room. Most of us just thought it was decor. Now lean back, let your breathing slow down, because we are about to walk into the deepest part of the forest. The part the journals warned about. The part the locals do not talk about after dark. We are going to meet Bill Cipher properly. Not the meme, not the cosplay, the actual character. A creature trillions of years old who burned down his own world. A creature who has been waiting at the edge of the show since episode 1. A creature whose backstory makes Gravity Falls a tragedy hiding inside a comedy. The Dream Demon is waking up, and he wants to talk. Bill Cipher was a normal triangle once. To talk about Bill Cipher, you have to start with how shockingly old he is. Not old like a grandfather. Not old like a haunted house. Old like the universe is a baby compared to him. Over 1 trillion years prior to the events of the series, Bill Cipher was born. A trillion years. The current age of our universe is about 14 billion years. Bill is over 70 times older than the universe we live in. That fact alone reshapes everything you thought the show was doing. Gravity Falls is not just a small mystery in Oregon. It is a small mystery being watched from outside time by a being who has been waiting longer than physics. But here is the part that hurts. Bill did not start out as a god of chaos. He started out as a guy. He originated from a 2-dimensional universe known as Euclidia, a flat world. Picture a sheet of paper. Picture all the people in your life squished onto that sheet. They can move up, down, left, right. They cannot move toward you or away from you. They are flat triangles, flat squares, flat circles. They have flat dreams and flat conversations and flat lives. Bill was one of those triangles, a regular shape in a regular town in a flat universe. Then he saw something. He saw the 3rd dimension. He could see depth. He could see thickness. He was the only one in his whole world who could see it. And he tried to tell everyone. He tried to explain that there was more, that the universe was bigger than the page they were drawn on, that if they just looked up, they could see it too. Nobody believed him. He was originally just a normal guy in the second dimension, whose only real difference was having the ability to see the third dimension. It was after he destroyed his own reality that he became what he is now. He destroyed it. He burned his whole world down. He killed every triangle he had ever known, according to one fan deep dive that included his own parents. He grew bored of living there and destroyed his entire homeworld, killing everyone he had ever known. Yes, including his parents. He told himself he had liberated them. He told himself he had set them free from their flat lives. That is the lie he tells in the show. That is the lie he tells in the Book of Bill. The Book of Bill leaves some of his backstory ambiguous, but reveals that the destruction of his home was an accident. Bill snapped from the guilt and convinced himself he liberated it. So even the trillion-year-old chaos god is, underneath everything, a kid who broke something he loved and never recovered. He invented a story that made the breaking feel like a choice. That is one of the saddest pieces of backstory in any kid's show ever made. The villain is a self-hating triangle who killed his own parents and convinced himself he was a hero for it. And he has had 1 trillion years to repeat that lie to himself until he believes it. Bill's backstory is a plagiarism joke. Here is a piece of fan trivia that almost nobody knows on first watch. Bill's whole origin story is a reference to a 1884 novel called Flatland, written by a Victorian schoolteacher named Edwin Abbott. The book is about a two-dimensional square who begins to question his plane of existence after encountering a sphere from a higher dimension. The plot of Flatland and the backstory of Bill Cipher are nearly the same story. A flat shape sees a higher dimension. The flat shape tries to tell his neighbors. The flat shape gets exiled or destroyed for telling the truth. Bill himself confirmed the reference in a Reddit AMA. He said Edwin Abbott has a decent idea about Bill's origin. That is the show creator Alex Hirsch in character as Bill, telling fans that one of the most beloved villain backstories in animation is built on a Victorian math book. That is the texture of Gravity Falls, layers under layers. A cartoon for kids that is also a math novel reference, that is also a story about guilt, that is also a meditation on what it means to see something nobody else can see. The Nightmare Realm. After Bill burned down his home, he went somewhere. He had to. A being that destroys his own dimension cannot just exist in normal space. He went to a place between dimensions, a boiling, shifting intergalactic foam between dimensions, a lawless, unstable crawlspace known as the Nightmare Realm. The Nightmare Realm is not just a void. It is a swirling, broken non-place where the laws of physics do not work. Up is not always up. Time does not move in one direction. Other refugees from other broken dimensions wash up there too. Bill became their king, not because he was the strongest, because he was the loudest, because he was the one with a plan. His henchmaniacs, the lackeys we see during Weirdmageddon, are all refugees from the Nightmare Realm. 8 Ball, Keyhole, Pyronica, Teeth, Kryptos, Xanthar, Amorphous Shape, Hectorgon, Pachi Fire, each one is from a different broken universe. Each one followed Bill because Bill promised them a real world to live in. A world with depth, a world with bodies, a world they could actually touch. The Nightmare Realm's lawlessness and lack of any consistent physics or rules meant that it was fated to collapse into itself eventually. So Bill was running out of time. The place he ruled was dying. He needed a new home, a real one, a solid one, a third-dimensional world, with grass and trees and bones. Then he heard about the prophecy. Bill came to learn of a prophecy that stated he would merge the Nightmare Realm with the third dimension. The prophecy said the merger would happen in a specific place, a thin spot in the wall between universes, a forest valley somewhere on a small blue planet around a yellow star, a town that would eventually be called Gravity Falls. So he started showing up in dreams, trillions of years of careful, patient work, whispering to ancient humans, carving his face into cave walls, appearing as a god to shamans, then as a tutor to alchemists, then as a muse to inventors, always whispering, always promising, always waiting for the right human to come along. The human with the brain big enough and the ego open enough to build him a door. That human was Stanford Pines, Ford was Bill's puppet for years. In the episode The Last Mabelcorn, Season 2, Episode 15, we get the full story of how Ford and Bill met. Ford had just moved to Gravity Falls. He was studying the anomalies. He hit a wall. He could not figure out where the weirdness was coming from. Then he found a cave. The walls of the cave were covered in ancient drawings of a triangle with one eye. There was an incantation. Ford read the incantation out loud. He summoned Bill into his mind. Bill recognized Ford's brilliant but cocky and insecure nature, and his near-friendlessness as ideal conditions for manipulation, choosing to introduce himself to Ford as a muse who chose one brilliant mind every century to inspire. That is the lie. That is the line Bill uses on his marks. I pick one mind every 100 years. I have picked you. You are special. You are chosen. Ford fell for it. Hard. He fell for it because he had spent his whole life being told he was special and then dismissed by everyone around him. He fell for it because his own brother had pushed him away. He fell for it because he was 20-something and alone in a cabin in the woods, and a god from another universe was telling him he mattered. Bill became Ford's muse. Ford built the portal under Bill's instruction. He did not realize at the time that the portal was not for science. The portal was a door specifically designed to let Bill walk in. Bill then happily reveals that he had tricked Stanford into creating a portal to his own destruction, as it will bring other demons into his dimension. Ford figured it out late, too late. By the time he realized what the portal was, the prototype had already malfunctioned. McGucket had already looked into the void and seen something that broke him. The damage was done, so Ford did the only thing he could do. He shut down the portal. He hid the journals. He called Stanley, and the rest is the punch and the push, and the 30-year wait. But here's the part that makes Ford's story tragic in a different way. Ford has a metal plate in his head. He had a doctor install it. He did this so Bill could not enter his dreams anymore. The plate blocks the connection. That is the lengths Ford went to keep Bill out. He had a surgeon cut open his skull and put metal in it. He could never sleep deeply again without knowing the triangle was on the other side of the wall, tapping. And Bill, who is patient, just waited for the next family member to come along with an unprotected mind. That family member ended up being Mabel, and Mabel is the entire reason Weirdmageddon happens. But we will get to that. We are not there yet. First, we have to talk about how Bill makes deals, because the deals are the rules of his power, and the rules of his power are how he gets defeated. The rules of Bill's deals. Bill cannot do anything in our world without permission. That is the most important rule of the entire series. He can show up in dreams. He can whisper. He can offer. He cannot take. He needs you to shake his hand. He needs you to say yes. He needs an invitation. He is, in horror terms, a vampire who has to be invited across the threshold. He is, in old folklore terms, a fairy who cannot enter a house without being asked in. Every Bill arc in the show is built on this rule. Gideon summons Bill willingly. Ford summoned Bill willingly. Dipper in Sock Opera shakes Bill's hand willingly. Mabel in Dipper and Mabel vs. the Future gives Bill the rift willingly, although she does not know she is giving it to Bill at the time. The deals always cost something. Gideon gives up his telepathy. Dipper gives up his body. Mabel gives up the world. Each time, the human thinks they are getting a good deal. Each time, they are wrong. Bill keeps his word in the strict letter of the contract, and he twists it in the spirit until the human is destroyed. There is a fan theory, repeated in multiple forums, that says Bill's contracts are based on real folk magic. The handshake, the candles, the pentagram, the Latin chant. All of it borrows from how summoning rituals appear in old grimoires. The show is not inventing demonology, it is borrowing the rules. This rule is what makes Bill defeatable. He needs your consent. If nobody gives consent, he cannot enter. The whole series builds toward a moment where the Pines family has to figure out that the only way to beat a god is to refuse to play his game. And then in the finale, they have to play one final game that he does not know they are playing. That game is the one that ends him. The big Dreamscaperers reveal. The first time Bill Cipher appears on screen as himself is in Dreamscaperers, Season 1, Episode 19. Gideon summons him in his attic. Bill appears in a swirl of blue fire. He floats. He laughs. He is yellow. He has one eye. He has a top hat. He has a bow tie. And the very first thing he does, the very first beat of his existence on screen, is flash a series of cryptic images while talking about secrets he knows. In one scene, Bill Cipher flashes random images that hint to several conspiracies and secrets. The images include the moon landing, the JFK assassination, hieroglyphics, alchemy symbols, and a man with a beard who looks like Stan. Bill is telling the audience in his very first scene that he was there for all of it, all of human history. He has been pulling strings since before there were strings to pull. That same episode is the one where we get the first clear look at Stan's tattoo, which is the same as the glowing red symbol that refers back to the portal. The show is loading the gun in episode 19 and pulling the trigger in the finale. 15 episodes later, Bill says his most famous line in this episode. He says, "Reality is an illusion, the universe is a hologram. Buy gold. Buy." The line is half joke, half philosophy. It is the kind of thing a stoner says at 2 a.m. It is also the kind of thing a being from a higher dimension might actually believe about a lower one. Bill thinks our universe is a flat sheet of paper, the way humans think his universe was a flat sheet of paper. He is doing to us what was once done to him. He is the cycle. He is the trauma. He is the kid from Euclidia who saw something his neighbors could not see and decided to burn the room down. The Nanes Bill has been called. This is a quiet detail I love. Across the series, the comics, the books, and the in-character interviews, Bill has been called by a long list of names. The Villains Wiki has a partial list. Bill Cipher, Bill Codex, Chill Cipher, a disguise in Mabel's mindscape, William Lucifer, William Barndoor Muscle Poppin', the Triangle Guy, Evil Triangle Demon, Billy, which was his childhood nickname, Isosceles Monster, the beast with just one eye, Bipper when he possesses Dipper. My muse, the name Ford uses for him, best baby of all time, in the second dimension, according to himself. Vinegar Pete as a goat during the witchcraft era. Local god as Silas Birchtree. Silas Birchtree. Hold that name. Silas Birchtree was the name Bill used during the American colonial period, when he was worshipped as a local god by settlers. Birchtree, Pine Tree, the Pines family, the pine on Dipper's hat, the forest of Gravity Falls. Bill has been hiding in the trees of this region for centuries. The longer you stare at the show, the more you realize the trees were never just trees. They were Bill the whole time. The forest was Bill, and the man who walked through the trees as a boy, who claimed the cave with his brother, who wrote his name on the wall, was the boy Bill had been waiting for, Stanford Pines. The mind he had been calling toward Gravity Falls for centuries. The Triangle picked his target before Ford was even born. Now we have to talk about how the Triangle finally got out. How a crack in a containment sphere, a girl's broken heart, and a man in a time travel suit ended the world for one full day. We have to talk about Weirdmageddon. We have to talk about the night the sky cracked open and the Triangle walked out. The lights are about to go out in Gravity Falls. Stay close. The crack in the spear. Weirdmageddon does not begin with a bang. It begins with a hairline crack in a glass ball. In the episode Dipper and Mabel versus the Future, Ford pulls Dipper aside in the basement. He tells him about the rift. The rift is a tear between dimensions that was created when the portal first activated 30 years ago. Ford has been keeping the rift inside a glass containment sphere on a chain. He wears it around his neck like a pendant. It looks like a snow globe. Ford explains to Dipper that the interdimensional rift's casing is cracking, and if it were to shatter, it would cause reality to become completely unraveled, causing the catastrophic event known as Weirdmageddon. So Ford has been walking around with the apocalypse hanging from his neck for weeks, maybe months, and nobody knew but him. Then he gives it to Mabel. Not directly. He gives it to Dipper, but Dipper does not want it. Dipper has just been offered the chance to become Ford's apprentice, to stay in Gravity Falls for the next 10 years, to skip going home with Mabel. Ford has seen something in Dipper, something that reminds him of himself at that age, and he wants to mentor the kid. Dipper is tempted. He is 12. He has spent his whole summer being told he is too short, too anxious, too uncool. Now a six-fingered scientist is offering to make him the heir to the journals. Dipper does not say yes. He does not say no. He tells Mabel he is thinking about it. Mabel finds out by accident. She overhears, and the world ends because she overhears. Mabel is the Apocalypse Maiden. This is the part of the show that fans argue about online to this day. Was Mabel right to be sad? Was she selfish? Was she just a 12-year-old being a 12-year-old? The TV Tropes recap for the episode puts it bluntly. To everyone's surprise, Mabel is the Apocalypse Maiden. In a moment of emotional instability, she makes a sympathetic but incredibly destructive mistake, which ends up turning the world into hell on earth. Mabel runs out of the shack crying. She sits in a field. She is the one who looks 12 here, not Dipper. Dipper has been growing up in Fast Forward all summer. Mabel has been clinging. She does not want summer to end. She does not want Dipper to leave. She does not want high school. She does not want her brother to outgrow her. Then a man in a strange suit appears. He says his name is Blendin Blandin. He says he has a gift for her. He says he can stop time. He can make summer last forever. He can give her a bubble where nothing changes and Dipper never leaves. She just has to give him the snow globe. Be careful what you wish for. Mabel makes a wish for time to stop, so she would never have to face her problems. And Dipper would never be able to grow up and leave her. Blendin offers her a time bubble to do just that. If only she'd hand over a mysterious item in her brother's possession. She does and gets her wish fulfilled by Bill, because it is not Blendin. Blendin's eyes are wrong. Mabel does not notice the eyes. 12-year-olds do not always look at eyes. The eyes are yellow, slit-pupilled. The eyes belong to Bill Cipher. Bill possesses Blendin Blandin and tricks Mabel into giving him the rift. He then smashes the containment orb, causing the long-predicted event to begin. The episode ends with Bill flying toward the camera, his single eye on fire, the sky turning red, and the apocalypse beginning above Gravity Falls. The cliffhanger ran for nearly a month before the next episode aired. Fans on every forum lost their minds. And here's the part that fan communities still talk about, the blame question. Some viewers said Mabel was a child being manipulated by a god. Some viewers said she should have known better. Some said Ford was at fault for handing a 12-year-old the apocalypse. Some said Dipper was at fault for considering the apprenticeship without telling her. Some said Stan was at fault for never repairing the family in the first place. The show does not assign blame cleanly, it just keeps moving. By the time Weirdmageddon begins, the question is not who did this. The question is, how do we live through it? The sky turns red. The first thing that happens when the rift shatters is the sky cracks. Bill comes through. He grows enormous. The way a god grows in mythology, he laughs. He calls his friends. The henchmaniacs spill out of the tear. Then comes one of the strangest beats of the entire show. Time Baby shows up. Time Baby, the giant floating space infant from the year 3012, who rules the future. He is enormous. He has a crown. He commands the time police. He has shown up before in the show as a kind of cosmic authority. He appears now to try to stop Bill. He arrives with his time agents in formation, ready to enforce the laws of the multiverse. Bill snaps his fingers. Time Baby is in the very next moment vaporized, reduced to dust in a single beat. The most powerful being in the future of Earth, gone in less than a second. That is the moment the audience realizes how powerful Bill actually is. Time Baby was supposed to be a high-tier threat. Bill kills him with a finger snap, although, hold on, there is a code at the end of Weirdmageddon Part 1. The cryptogram decodes to a note from Blendin that says Time Baby is not really gone. Time Baby isn't dead. Exactly. It will take 1,000 years for his molecules to reconstitute, and when they do, boy, is he gonna be cranky. So Time Baby will be back in the year 3012, which, if you do the math on the show's timeline, is exactly when Time Baby is shown destroying buildings. During a time travel sequence Dipper and Mabel witness in The Time Traveler's Pig. The show told you in Season 1 when Time Baby would die and come back. You saw it, you just did not know what you were watching. The bubbles. Bill Seal's gravity falls inside a giant bubble. He cannot leave the town. The axolotl, the higher being we will talk about more soon, has placed limits on his power. The whole catastrophe is contained inside the valley, but inside the valley anything goes. Bill creates prison bubbles. Each one is a personalized hell for one of the residents. Each one is themed. Each one is genuinely cruel. Mabel is trapped in a bubble called Mabeland. It is everything she wants. Glitter. Boys. A castle made of frosting. A version of summer that never ends. No Dipper growing up. No Stan being grumpy. No Ford being mean. Just Mabel forever in her favorite sweater with her favorite things. That is the cruelty. It is not a hell of pain. It is a hell of indulgence. Mabel almost stays, almost. She is 12, she is tired, she is sad, and the bubble is letting her have everything she has ever wanted. The thing that pulls her out is Dipper. The thing that pulls her out is the realization that a perfect bubble without her brother is not perfect at all. Mabel choosing to leave Mabeland is one of the quiet hero moments of the series. She does not save the world by punching anything. She saves the world by leaving a beautiful prison. Other characters get their own bubbles. We see glimpses. We see Gideon imprisoned in his own bubble, watching Mabel through glass, finally realizing that what he wanted was never love but control, and that control was never going to give him what he actually wanted, which was a friend. Gideon is also where the show pulls one of its quiet redemption beats. He helps Dipper free Mabel. He gives up his Mabel obsession. He becomes useful. By the end, he is part of the resistance. The town outside the bubbles is a wasteland. People have been turned to stone. Eye bats fly through the streets. The henchmaniacs party in the rubble. Bill sits on a throne made of frozen humans. He has won. He has been waiting trillions of years, and he has finally won. Almost. The shack is a fortress. The one place Bill cannot reach is the Mystery Shack. Ford set up a protective barrier on the property before he was captured. The shack glows blue. Bill bounces off it. He tries to enter. He cannot. The barrier holds, so Stan and the survivors barricade themselves inside. They wait Dipper, Mabel, Wendy, Seuss, and a handful of townsfolk. Huddle inside the building while the world burns outside the windows. They eat from the gift shop snack bar. They sleep on the floor. And then McGucket steps up. This is the McGucket moment. The man who has spent the entire series being treated as a senile joke turns out to be the engineer who builds the resistance. Old Man McGucket leads the survivors into turning the shack into a giant mech. The Shacktron, the Mystery Shack, with arms and legs. The most absurd thing the show ever drew. And it works because the show earned it. McGucket has been an engineer all along. He helped Ford build the portal. He invented the memory gun. Now he is welding wheels onto a tourist trap and turning it into a war machine. In Weirdmageddon 3, when McGucket has everyone turn the Mystery Shack into the Shacktron, the portal can be seen on the midsection of the mech, patched back together. The original portal that started this whole disaster is now the chest plate of the robot. That is going to end it. The show is making a point. The thing that broke the world is now part of the thing that fixes the world. Nothing in Gravity Falls is wasted, not even the Apocalypse Machine. The Shacktron leaves the property. The barrier drops as soon as it leaves. The resistance drives into the heart of Bill's chaos. They smash through henchmaniacs. They cut through eyebats. They take back the town one corner at a time. And inside the throne room of Bill's Pyramid Fortress, Ford is being tortured. Ford and Bill, one more time. We have to slow down here because this scene is one of the most quietly intense in the show. Ford is captured. Ford is chained. Bill is interrogating him. Bill is trying to figure out what is keeping him trapped. Inside Gravity Falls, he knows there is something. The axolotl has put a containment field around the valley. Bill cannot cross the town limits. He wants the secret. He thinks Ford knows it. Ford does know it. Ford figured out, before the apocalypse, that the equation for breaking the seal could be drawn on the floor. The Zodiac, 10 symbols, 10 people, hands join. The right configuration could erase Bill from existence. Meanwhile, Ford re-encounters Bill, who is seeking to understand what mysterious force is keeping him and his lackeys trapped within Gravity Falls. Ford knows the secret, but refuses to tell Bill, so Bill proceeds to torture him. Bill turns Ford into a gold statue. Bill flicks Ford's nose. Bill literally tortures Ford with what looks like a giant magnifying glass. The show plays it dark. The bright cartoon colors do not soften what is happening. A man is being tortured by his former best friend. The friend who he summoned in a cave decades ago, the friend who he thought of as a muse, the friend who turned out to be a god. Ford does not break. Ford has lived for 30 years with a metal plate in his head, specifically to keep Bill out of his thoughts. He has prepared for this exact moment. He keeps his mouth shut. He waits. Then the Shacktron arrives. The Zodiac almost works. The Shacktron tears down the pyramid. The Pines family reunites in the rubble. Stan, Dipper, Mabel, Ford, Soos, Wendy McGucket, Pacifica, Gideon, Robbie, 10 people, 10 symbols, the cipher wheel. This is the moment fans had been theorizing about for 2 whole seasons. The opening credits showed a wheel of 10 symbols around Bill's cipher. Every kid who had paused on the wheel had been writing essays on what the symbols meant. Pine tree for Dipper, shooting star for Mabel, question mark for Soos, ice bag for Wendy, crescent for Stan, six-fingered hand for Ford, llama for Pacifica, stitched heart for Robbie, glasses for McGucket, pentagram for Gideon. The cipher wheel seen in the opening credits led fans to believe that 10 specific characters would have to join hands to defeat Bill. And they were right. The fans nailed it years before the finale aired. The ritual is real, the wheel works. The 10 of them stand in formation. They join hands. The pentagram lights up. Bill cannot believe it. He looks scared, actually scared, for the first time in the series. He is about to be erased. And then Stan and Ford start fighting. It is so dumb, it is so human. They are arguing about an old grudge. Stan says he just rescued Ford from the portal. Ford has not thanked him. Ford finally thanks him, and then snarks about Stan's grammar. Stan loses it. They start yelling. They drop their hands. The circle breaks. The ritual was attempted in Weirdmageddon 3, but it failed. Because Stan and Ford started fighting, proving that the prophecy was a possibility rather than a guaranteed destiny. Bill returns, no longer distracted, and with all the people who could possibly stop him gathered in one room, he destroys the Zodiac wheel with a wave of fire. The Pines family is swiftly captured. The rest of the resistance is turned into tapestries, with their faces frozen in screaming horror. It is the lowest moment in the show. 2 old men's egos cost the world its one prophesied chance to be saved. The thing that was always going to work. The thing the show had been telegraphing since episode 1 of season 1 falls apart because 2 brothers cannot say sorry in time. This is the deepest sleep beat of the finale. This is the moment where if you were watching live, you genuinely thought the show might end with the bad guy winning. It would not have been the first cartoon to do it, and the show had earned the right to make that call. But Stan is about to do something nobody, not even Bill, sees coming. He is about to make the trade that will end the trillion-year reign of a dream demon. He is about to walk into his own mind and lock the door behind him, with the demon still inside. It is the saddest, bravest thing anyone does in the entire series, and it works. The switch. The Pines family is captured. Bill has them all in his palm. He is about to kill them. Mabel is dangling from his fist. Bill is about to crush her. The world is over. Then Ford speaks up. He offers a deal. He will give Bill the equation, the secret to breaking the seal on Gravity Falls, in exchange for the lives of his family. Bill agrees. Bill always agrees when somebody offers him a deal. That is his hubris. He cannot turn down a contract. Ford shakes Bill's hand. Bill flies into his mind to extract the equation, and inside the mindscape, Bill realizes he has been tricked. They tricked Bill into going inside Stan's mind instead of Ford's, by changing their clothes and impersonating each other. Then Ford would shoot Stan with the memory-erasing gun, completely wiping away Stan's mind and erasing Bill from existence. The twins were never going to win this with a punch. They were going to win it with the trick Stan had been running his whole life. Stan put on Ford's coat. Ford put on Stan's fez. Bill, the trillion-year-old god of chaos, did not look closely enough. He flew into Stan's brain thinking it was Ford's brain. Stan trapped him in there. Ford fires the memory gun. The blast hits Stan's head. Stan's mind erases itself. Bill inside the mind is erased with it. Bill realizes what is happening. He starts begging. He cycles through forms. He turns red. He turns into a real human face. He screams. He chants the incantation that should let him return. the one that ends with the word XOLETL. Then he is gone. Stan reveals that he and Ford had swapped places to trick Bill into entering a mind susceptible to the memory gun's effects, expressing his willingness to sacrifice his memories to save the world and his family. Stan agreed to lose everything that made him Stan. The 30 years of grief, the childhood, the brother, the kids, all of it. To save the world. When the gun fires, Stan blinks. He looks around. He does not know who anyone is. He does not know who he is. He smiles politely at the strangers in the room. Mabel cries. Dipper cries. Seuss cries. Ford cries. The Shacktron is rubble. The world is back. The triangle is dead. And Stanley Pines is a stranger to his own family. Mabel brings Stan back. This is the part where Mabel becomes the hero of the show in a way that nobody saw coming, because Mabel saves Stan with her scrapbook. She sits with him in the gift shop. She opens the scrapbook. She points at photos. She says, "This is you. This is your brother. This is Sue's. This is Waddles. This is me." She narrates his life back to him. She tells him every memory she has of him from the summer. She refuses to give up, and slowly, Stan comes back. The sadness is brief, as Mabel's scrapbook and stories help Stan remember who he is. He remembers. He calls her sweetie. He hugs her. The whole room exhales. The show breaks your heart and then puts it back together in the same scene. That is the trick. The whole show has been about memory. The journals are memory. The memory gun is memory. Bill is the past coming back to bite the present. McGucket is what happens when you erase your memories. Stan losing his memories was the only price big enough to pay for what Bill cost the world. And the only thing strong enough to give him back was a 12-year-old girl with a binder full of stickers. The day is won. Bill is gone. Stan is back. The town slowly returns to normal. The petrified citizens unfreeze. The hench maniacs are sent back to whatever broken dimension they came from. But the show is not over. There's one more piece, one more whisper. One more thing Bill says before he dies that fans are still arguing about. The Axolotl incantation. Right before Bill is erased, he says something nobody catches on first watch. He says it in reverse. The whisper is buried in the audio. If you slow it down and reverse it, you hear it clearly. AXOLOTL. My time has come to burn. I invoke the ancient power that I may return. Axolotl. That is the name of the higher being. The being older and more powerful than Bill, older and more powerful than Time Baby, the being who seems to operate the rules of the entire multiverse. Bill is calling on the axolotl with his dying breath to bring him back someday, somewhere, in some other form. The axolotl is both the Vigenere keyword for the final episode, and the pet Stan keeps in his fish tank. It is known for its regenerative properties. Real axolotls, the actual amphibians, are famous in biology because they can regrow lost limbs. They can regrow parts of their hearts. They can regrow their spines. They are the regeneration animal. The animal that does not die when it should. And Stan keeps one in a fish tank in the shack throughout the entire series. The audience walks past it every episode. The animal is sitting there in Season 1, in Season 2, in Episode 1, in Episode 40. Bill's get-out-of-jail card is sitting in a fish tank in the corner of the gift shop. Nobody on screen ever points to it. The show just lets it sit there. That is the bones of Gravity Falls. It puts the entire endgame in the background of every shot and trusts you to look. WHO is the axolotl. Now we have to talk about the axolotl as a being, because the axolotl is the highest ranking thing the show ever hints at. And the show hints at it carefully. The axolotl is a powerful extra-dimensional creature, whose power ranks massively above that of Time Baby, Bill Cipher, and other types of powerful extra-dimensional creatures. Time Baby is a god. Bill is older than the universe. The axolotl is bigger than both of them. The axolotl shows up directly only once, in a deleted style sequence accessed through a hidden link on the old Disney XD website. The cipher to a specific URL. The page allowed each twin to ask a question. Mabel asks the creature who they are. The creature says, the axolotl. Dipper asks the creature what they know about Bill Cipher. The creature responds with a poem. 60 degrees that come in threes, watches from within birch trees, saw his own dimension burn, misses home and can't return, says he's happy, he's a liar, blame the arson for the fire. If he wants to shirk the blame, he'll have to invoke my name. One way to absolve his crime, a different form, a different time. Read it again slowly. 60 degrees that come in threes, a triangle, 3 corners, each 60 degrees. The axolotl is talking about Bill watches from within birch trees. Birch trees. Silas Birchtree, Bill's colonial-era alias. The axolotl knows. Saw his own dimension burn. Bill burned Euclidia. Misses home and can't return. Bill is exiled. Says he's happy, he's a liar. The whole sales pitch of Bill, the chaos god, the celebrator of madness, is a mask. He is lonely. He is haunted. He is a triangle who cannot go home. Blame the arson for the fire. He said it himself. He blames others. He should blame himself. If he wants to shirk the blame, he'll have to invoke my name. That is the loophole. That is the door. That is the spell. The axolotl is saying that Bill can come back. He just has to call out the name with his dying breath. From the depths of his own erasure, which is exactly what Bill does. This suggests that when, before being erased from reality in the series finale, Bill gives a message that reversed says, Axolotl, my time has come to burn. He is invoking the axolotl by name. Bill called the name. The axolotl heard the name. The poem said this would happen. So Bill is not gone. He is somewhere else. A different form. A different time. The Book of Bill, released in July 2024, picks up this thread. Bill is in a place called the Theraprism, a kind of multiversal therapy prison. Run by the axolotl's people. He is alive. He is, in a manner of speaking, in time out. The axolotl did not destroy him. The axolotl exiled him. Bill uses his therapeutic journaling arts and crafts hour, while in dimension number 5150's, the Theraprism, to speak to the reader, giving advice, truths about reality, and his backstory. The dimension number 5150 is a code. In California, 5150 is the code police use for involuntary psychiatric holds. The axolotl put Bill in a psych ward. The trillion-year-old chaos god is in court-ordered therapy. That is one of the great late-stage moves Alex Hirsch made with the lore. He did not bring Bill back as a villain. He brought him back as a patient. The Theraprism is a place where dangerous reality-warping beings go to do journaling and basket weaving and group sharing until they remember how to behave. And Bill is in there, mouthing off, lying, doing arts and crafts. He is still dangerous. He is still trying to escape. He is just locked up. The Book of Bill is also where Hirsch confirms a detail fans had argued about for years. The website thisisnotwebsited.com is a real website. Typing in the password Vallis Cineris, which is Latin for Valley of Ashes, shows that one of Bill's parents had a top hat just like him. So Bill had a dad. Bill had a dad who looked like him. Bill killed his dad when he burned Euclidia. The dad had a top hat. The trillion-year-old villain wears his father's hat. There is no version of Gravity Falls where you stop finding new layers. The Sipper Hunt. In summer 2016, a few months after the series finale aired, Alex Hirsch did something that almost no other show creator has ever done. He posted a picture on social media. The picture showed him in front of a stone statue of Bill Cipher. The statue was real. The statue existed in the real world. The statue was somewhere on Earth. He told fans to find it. Months later, Alex Hirsch started the Cipher Hunt, a worldwide scavenger hunt to find said statue. After the hunt, the statue was fought over, then confiscated by the police for a while. It ended up on a tree in Bicentennial Park, but a fan stole its hat from the police. About 2 weeks later, the statue was moved to Confusion Hill, the inspiration for the Mystery Shack, and was given a new hat. The Cipher Hunt was real. Fans solved puzzles. The puzzles led to locations in real cities around the world. The locations had clues. The clues led to more locations. The trail circled the globe and ended in a forest in Oregon, where a fan eventually found the statue half buried in dirt. The statue was a tribute to a plot point inside the show. Bill, at the end of Weirdmageddon, leaves a stone copy of his old body in the forest of Gravity Falls. It is petrified. It has one hand reaching up out of the ground. It is a warning. It says, "Here lies a god. Do not say his name." Hirsch made one of those statues out of resin and stone in real life and hid it in the woods. That kind of love for a fan base is rare. Hirsch was not selling tickets. He was not pushing merchandise. He was inviting his audience to walk in the footsteps of the characters they loved and find a piece of the show in their own world. He turned an animated finale into a real-world treasure hunt. The statue in real life is at Confusion Hill now. You can drive there. You can take a photo with it. The fictional inspiration for the Mystery Shack is now the home of the statue of the show's final villain. The loop is closed. The story has a body in the real world, the Book of Bill. 8 years after the show ended, Hirsch did one more thing. In July 2024, he released the Book of Bill. The book is written from Bill's perspective. Bill narrates it. Hirsch presents it as a cursed object Bill smuggled out of the Theraprism. The book is an event. It became a #1 New York Times bestseller. It expanded the canon. It confirmed and disconfirmed years of fan theories. It gave us new details, the Bros' secret code, the full pronunciation of Sousa's last name, the exact day Bill arrived in our dimension, background details on the Henchmaniacs, lost pages from Journal 3, a whole chapter on silly straws, because Bill, inside, Bill sheds light on his bizarre origins, his sinister effects on human history, the Pines family's most embarrassing secrets, and the key to overthrowing the world, laid out in a handy step-by-step guide. This chaotic and beautifully illustrated tome contains baffling riddles, uncrackable ciphers, lost journal 3 pages, ways to cheat death, the meaning of life, and a whole chapter on silly straws. The book also has its own puzzle. The puzzle led fans to a website. The website had more secrets. The secrets pointed to a phone number you could call. The phone number played a voicemail from Bill. The voicemail had codes. The codes led to more pages. The pages are still being decoded by fans today. Gravity Falls is a show that did not end, it just transitioned into a different medium. The mystery keeps going. The triangle keeps tapping at the glass. And in Stan's old fish tank in the Mystery Shack, somewhere in the fictional town of Gravity Falls, Oregon, an axolotl is still swimming in circles, waiting. Now we are going to talk about all the smaller secrets. The background secrets. The blink and you miss them facts that turn rewatches into archaeology, because Gravity Falls is not just the big story. It is the 1,000 small ones the show hid in furniture, in carpets, in posters, in episodes you watched once when you were 11 and never thought to slow down. The town is full of pins in a map nobody has finished looking at. The genomes were everywhere. If you go back to Season 1, Episode 1, you meet the gnomes. They are short. They have beards. They puke rainbows. They form together into a giant gnome to try to marry Mabel. The episode ends with Dipper, Mabel, and Stan walking back into the shack, and the audience assumes the gnomes are a one-off villain. The gnomes are not a one-off villain. The gnomes are in the background of almost every episode. The hidden gnomes appear in the background of multiple episodes. They are tiny. They are blurry. You miss them on a regular monitor, but on rewatch, with the brightness up, you can see them. In bushes, in trees, on rooftops watching, the show is hinting at something dark. The gnomes live in the woods around the shack. They saw the portal incident. They have been watching the Pines family for the entire series. They are not just monster of the week material. They are part of the town's permanent ecosystem. They are also, in the lore of the show, the descendants of beings that came through the rift centuries before. There is a fan theory, repeated on multiple message boards, that the gnomes are not native to Earth at all. They came through a smaller rift that opened in Gravity Falls before the portal was ever built. They washed up in the forest the way Bill's henchmaniacs would later wash up in the town. The forest of Gravity Falls is, in this reading, a centuries-old immigration hub for broken dimensions. The Triangle was just one of many guests. He was the only one with a plan, the Multi-Bear and the Manitars. There is an episode in Season 1 called Dipper vs. Manliness. It is the episode where Dipper, trying to prove he is a man, joins a group of half-man, half-bull beings called the Manitors. They train him. They tell him his trial is to kill a creature called the multi-bear. Dipper finds the multi-bear. The multi-bear is a bear with several heads. The multi-bear is also gentle. The multi-bear likes pop music. The multi-bear listens to a Western boy band called Baba. The multi-bear and Dipper bond over the fact that they both like things they are not supposed to like. Dipper refuses to kill him. This episode is a quiet manifesto. The show is a kid's show that openly says masculinity. The kind the Manitars are selling is performative nonsense. The real strength is being okay with the things you actually love. Pop music, sequins, your sister, sweaters. The multi-bear and Dipper choose softness. The Manitars banish Dipper for failing. Dipper goes home. He sings Baba to himself. He is fine. That episode is one of the early ones that signals to fans that Gravity Falls is not just a mystery show. It is a show with politics. Quiet ones, not loud ones, but they are there. The wax figures. In Season 1, Episode 2, Headhunters, Stan opens a hidden room full of wax statues. He has a wax Coolio. He has a wax Sherlock Holmes. He has a wax Genghis Khan. He has a whole secret museum. He charges admission. The wax figures come alive at night. They are murderous. They have a personal grudge against Stan for putting their bodies on display. That episode plays as horror comedy. On rewatch, the wax figures are a tell. They are characters with a grievance. They were a thing that existed before the Mystery Shack. They came alive in the shack. The building generates anomalies. The building is a magnet for the supernatural. The episode also includes the first joke that becomes a series-long bit, Mabel's grappling hook. She uses it for the first time in this episode. She uses it for the last time in the finale. The grappling hook is a Chekhov's gun the show keeps reloading, and the episode contains a tiny moment that becomes important later. Stan, telling the kids about his collection, mentions that Wax Stan was the first figure he ever made. Wax Stan looks exactly like Stan. Same face, same fez, same outfit. The wax figure dies in the episode and is melted down. But fans notice something. Wax Stan looks more like Ford than like Stan. The face is angular. The hair is different. The fan theory is that Wax Stan was originally modeled on Ford because Stan and Ford have the same face, and Stan had been pretending to be Ford for 30 years by the time the kids arrived. He made a wax figure of his brother. He put it in the front row of his secret museum. He stared at it. He missed him. That detail, hidden in Episode 2 of Season 1, only makes sense after you watch the Season 2 episode, A Tale of Two Stans, and learn the truth. That is what the show does. It gives you the answer first. It gives you the question second. Mabel has a ghost and a pig. Let us talk about Waddles. Waddles is Mabel's pet pig. He shows up in Season 1, Episode 6, The Time Traveler's Pig. Mabel wins him at a carnival game. She names him Waddles. She loves him instantly. He becomes her constant companion for the rest of the series, but that episode is also where we meet Blendin Blandin for the first time. Blendin is the time agent we will see again 3 more times. In this first appearance, he is trying to fix a tear in time. Dipper, trying to win a prize for Wendy at a different carnival booth, uses Blendin's time travel device to keep going back and undoing things. Each time he changes the past, the present changes. The future Wendy starts to disappear. Mabel never gets to keep her pig. In the end, Dipper has to choose help Wendy or let Mabel have Waddles. He chooses Mabel. That is a key moment in the brother-sister dynamic of the show. Wendy is Dipper's crush. He has spent the whole season trying to impress her. He gives her up. He gives up the version of his life where he gets the girl in exchange for the version of his life where Mabel gets the pig. He chooses sister over crush. The show is teaching its audience the value system that will pay off in the finale. Family first, always. The cost is always real. The choice is always hard. The right answer is almost always the one that hurts you a little bit and helps the person you love a lot. And Waddles is not a throwaway pet either. Waddles is in the cipher wheel theories. Some fans argued Waddles was the ice bag symbol. Others said he was the llama. Most settled on the fact that he is not on the wheel, but he is still mentioned in fan analyses because he is one of the most beloved characters in the show. Waddles never speaks. Waddles never solves a puzzle. Waddles just is, and the audience would have rioted if anything had happened to him. By the finale, Waddles is alive. Waddles is fine. Waddles flies back to California with Mabel. That detail alone is the show being kind to its audience. After everything else, the pig is fine. The Stan-O-War. We have to come back to the boat. The Stan-O-War is the boat that Stanley and Stanford dreamed about as kids. They drew it in the sand. They drew it on the back of a notebook. They promised each other they would sail it together when they grew up. The boat is in the back of every flashback we get of their childhood. The boat shows up early in the series too. In Season 1, Episode 2, Legend of the Gobblewonker, Stan takes Dipper and Mabel out on a fishing trip in a small motorboat. The boat is called the Stan-O-War. The kids do not realize what the name means. The audience does not realize what the name means. Stan does not explain. Stan's boat in Legend of the Gobblewonker was the Stan-O-War. The boat is the name of the dream he and Ford had as boys. Stan has been calling his boats Stan-O-War for 60 years. Every boat he owns, every fishing trip, he has been carrying the dream his whole life. Even when he hated his brother, even when he thought his brother was dead, even when he was alone in a basement trying to bring him back. By the very end of the series, in the closing montage, Stan and Ford buy a new boat together. It is called the Stan-O-War 2. They sail away, they go looking for sea monsters. The dream that started on a beach in 1960 finally happens 52 years later. That is one of the kindest endings any cartoon has ever earned. Two brothers in matching old man hats on a boat that has their childhood drawing painted on the side. The whole arc of the show, the betrayal, the portal, the apocalypse, was a 50-year detour from a promise two kids made each other on the sand. The Shapeshifter still haunts people. In the Season 2 episode Into the Bunker, Dipper, Mabel, Wendy, and Suze discover an underground bunker in the woods. They find a cryo chamber. Inside the chamber is a creature. The creature is a shapeshifter. The shapeshifter escapes. It can become anyone. It taunts the kids. It almost kills Wendy. They refreeze it. They lock it back in the chamber. And then right before the freeze takes hold, the shapeshifter does something cruel. The shapeshifter warns Dipper about attempting to find the author of the journals, saying, if you keep digging, you'll encounter a fate far worse than you can imagine, and this will be the last form you'll ever take, and turns into Dipper screaming right before he freezes. That moment, that single freeze frame, Dipper screaming, encased in ice. The pose he makes is the exact pose that Dipper makes when he's turned into wood in Northwest Mansion Mystery. The shapeshifter saw the future. The shapeshifter took the form of Dipper's future moment of terror, 6 episodes in advance. That detail is not in the script, it is in the storyboards. The animators built the shapeshifter's freeze pose to match the Northwest Mansion pose, frame by frame. Fans on Tumblr put the two images side by side. They are identical, the shapeshifter knew. Or maybe the shapeshifter is more than the show ever explains. Maybe the shapeshifter is something deeper? Maybe the shapeshifter has powers nobody noticed. The show never goes back to the bunker. The shapeshifter is presumably still down there, frozen, waiting. There is a fan theory that says the shapeshifter is still down there now, in the canon of the show, in the woods of Gravity Falls, frozen. But ice melts, the opening theme changes. Almost no one notices this in real time, but the opening theme of Gravity Falls changes during the run of the show. The first few episodes have the standard theme, Brad Breek guitar, quick cuts of the characters, Bill's silhouette flickering at the end. Then, gradually, the opening evolves, frames get added, frames get changed, new characters appear in the photo collage, new monsters appear in the woods shots, the end whisper shifts cipher. Then, in the second half of Season 2, the opening changes more dramatically. There are weirder cuts. Bill's eye flashes more often. The whispers get louder. The reversed audio gets stranger. Throughout some points of the series, the opening changes slightly. The Weirdmageddon opening is similar to the GF opening. However, characters are replaced with Bill cipher and messages and whispers are reversed or in code. By Weirdmageddon, the opening is essentially the show acknowledging that Bill has taken over. The town shots are red. The Pines family photos are replaced with Bill silhouettes. The music is the same melody but distorted. It is one of the most quietly ambitious things in animation. A show whose opening credits are themselves part of the plot, The final opening credit sequence, a mix of the original and billified versions, changes the backward mention to Goodbye Gravity Falls. The last opening, the one that plays before the actual final episode, ends with the show telling you goodbye, in reverse, in code. The show says farewell to itself in its own credits. You could watch every episode in order. You could watch the opening 40 times. And you could miss that the very last opening is the show kissing you on the forehead and tucking you in. The ends of episodes matter too. We have talked about the ciphers in the credits, but the ends of episodes are also where the show hides its biggest reveals. After the credits roll, almost every episode of Gravity Falls has a short post-credit scene. Sometimes it is a joke, Sue's eating something weird, Stan counting money, a monster reacting to something that happened in the episode. But sometimes, especially in Season 2, the post-credit scene is a major reveal. The first time we see Bill in a real-world context outside of Gideon's summoning is in a post-credit scene. Bill appears during the end credits after discovering that Ford has made a barrier around the shack so he couldn't trick him. The show hides the most important moments in places that get cut off if you stop the episode early. That is a power move. It rewards the patient viewer. It punishes the impatient one. The hidden journals, throughout the series, 3 hidden journals containing important information about the town's secrets. They often provide clues to solve mysteries. The journals are also in the post-credit scenes. Pages of them, drawings of monsters, hidden text. If you only ever watch the main episode and skip the credits, you missed roughly 20% of the lore of the show. That is by design. Gravity Falls is a show built for rewatching. It is built for pausing. It is built for noticing. And it is also built for one of the strangest in-show Easter eggs in animation history. The Stan Vac, merchandise as prophecy. In the early episodes of the show, you sometimes see a poster in the shack for a product called the Stan Vac. It is a vacuum cleaner. The poster is in the background. It looks like a typical Stan scam product. In the Season 2 episode, A Tale of Two Stans, when we see Stanley's failed business career in the flashback montage, the Stanlard vacuum makes an appearance. Same vacuum, same design. The product that has been in the shack as a poster the whole time was the actual product Stanley tried to sell door to door before he ran away from his family and became Grunkle Stan. The show was hanging the proof of his backstory on the wall of the gift shop for 2 seasons in the background of every episode. Things like that. The small, consistent details that pay off in late season reveals are why Gravity Falls is treated by animation fans the way Lost was treated by live-action fans. Every prop is a clue. Every prop is a clue. Even the props that look like nothing now breathe in slow. We have walked through gnomes and gods and grudges. We have visited a cave and a cabin and a shack. We have followed 2 brothers from a beach to a portal to a boat. There is one more thing to talk about before we close. One more set of secrets, the fan side of Gravity Falls. The community of people who have spent the last decade decoding, theorizing, drawing, writing, and refusing to let the show end. The audience is also a character. The audience is the 11th symbol on the cipher wheel. The show has been speaking to the audience the whole time. And the audience has been speaking back. The fandom solved puzzles in real time. When Gravity Falls was airing between 2012 and 2016, the fandom was different from the way TV fandoms work now. People did not just watch the show, they worked the show. Every time an episode aired, the cipher at the end of the credits would hit the internet within minutes. A network of fans on Reddit, Tumblr, and old-school forums would attack the code. Some had built Caesar cipher decoders. Some had built Atbash translators. Some, by the time the Vigenère ciphers showed up in Season 2, had written custom scripts to brute force the keywords. A decode would land in under an hour, then the meta-analysis would start. What does this message mean? What is it foreshadowing? What does the keyword tell us about the next episode? The keyword for the Season 2 finale, AXOLOTL, was decoded by fans days before the meaning of the word inside the show was clear. Throughout both seasons of Gravity Falls, nearly every episode ends with a cryptogram that fans would eagerly attempt to decipher before the next episode aired. The phrase "before the next episode aired" matters. The fans were not catching up after a season ended. They were solving the puzzles in real time. They were part of the production cycle. The show would hide something. The fans would find it. The show would reward the fans by hiding more. That feedback loop is, in many ways, what made Gravity Falls feel alive. The audience was a partner. The audience was treated like they were smart. Hirsch and his writers wrote for an audience that was actively reading them back. That is rare. That almost never happens. The Amos. Alex Hirsch did multiple Reddit Ask Me Anything sessions during the run of the show. He did one in 2013. He did one for the Season 2 mid-season finale. He did one after the show ended. Other members of the production team also did AMAs. Creative director and writer Michael Rianda, the voice of Dipper. Jason Ritter, the voice of Mabel. Kristen Schaal. Director and storyboard artist Matt Braley. Animator and storyboard artist Dana Terrace. Voice actor and the real-life inspiration for Mabel, Ariel Hirsch. The AMAs were treated as in-canon events. Hirsch would answer fan questions in character as the show's characters. He would sometimes refuse to answer a question by posting a picture of an axolotl. The axolotl picture became over time an answer in itself. It meant the question touched on something that would be revealed later. It meant the answer is in the show, but he cannot say it yet, so here is a wink. Fans connected the dots quickly. Every axolotl post was a sign that the question was a real lead. By the time the actual axolotl, the giant talking salamander, showed up in the post-finale Disney XD hidden page, the fans were not surprised. They had been seeing the hint for years. During Alex Hirsch's Reddit Ask Me Anything, any spoiler questions asked by fans were replied to with a photo of an axolotl. He had been planting the seed since 2013. The payoff was in 2016. 3 years of axolotl pictures. The audience never lost interest. The audience kept asking. That is a different relationship between a creator and a fandom than most shows have. It is closer to a long-running ARG than a traditional TV release schedule, and it set expectations for how Hirsch would treat his audience for the rest of his career. The Book of Bill, released in 2024, used the same playbook. Hidden websites, phone numbers, codes that lead to codes. The Gravity Falls fandom has been doing homework for the show for over a decade. The Liebem Theory. Some fan theories were so big that Hirsch had to step in and shut them down. The most famous one is Lebem. Liebem is Mabel spelled backwards. The theory was that Mabel had a secret evil twin or magical doppelganger. The evidence was real. Early in the series, fans noticed Mabel's sweaters occasionally changed, or that she appeared in background shots where she shouldn't be. Mabel would be in 2 places at once. Mabel's sweater would change between cuts. Mabel would appear in a background shot of an episode she had no business being in. Proponents pointed to the llama symbol on the cipher wheel, which they believed represented Liebem, while the shooting star represented Mabel. The wiki entry for the Liebem theory pointed to a scene in Season 1 where Mabel is holding the llama sweater up to a mirror and asking Dipper whether she should go with it or the sequins. Wax Larry King's head hops past her and tells her to go with the llama hair because llamas are nature's greatest warriors. Some fans pointed out that the llama on the wheel is backwards from how it is on the sweater, facing the same way as the one in the mirror. The reflection, the doppelganger, the mirror version of Mabel. The theory got huge. Then Alex Hirsch confirmed the llama symbol belonged to Pacifica Northwest. Pacifica wears the llama sweater during the Zodiac ritual in the finale. The llama was always Pacifica. The background animation errors were just animation errors. The theory was wrong, but that is the texture of being a Gravity Falls fan. You can be wrong. You can be deeply, structurally wrong. And the wrongness is part of the fun, because the show is layered enough that you can find evidence for almost anything. And when the actual answer arrives, it is usually better than what you guessed. Pacifica being the llama is a better story than Mabel having a secret twin, because Pacifica's arc is a redemption arc, and the redemption arc gives the llama symbol meaning. The show is generous with its symbols. It gives the audience the answer slowly. The fans who get it wrong are not stupid. They are just early. The Trans Dipper Theory. Another fan theory, repeated for years and never confirmed by the show, is the Trans Dipper Theory. The argument is structural. Dipper and Mabel appear to be identical twins, and identical twins are always the same sex, so one of them has to be transgender. Biologically, identical twins share the same DNA. If 2 people share DNA, They share the same sex at birth. So if Dipper and Mabel are identical twins, they were either both born one sex or both born the other. Some fans extended this into a full reading of Dipper's character. The anxious kid. The kid who hates being called short and high-voiced. The kid who is constantly trying to prove he is one of the guys. The kid who sings Baba in private and refuses to kill the multi-bear. The kid who is constantly being mistaken for a girl by adults. The kid whose biggest emotional beat in Season 1 is the body swap episode, where he ends up trapped in a different body and has to learn how to be okay with himself. The reading is that Dipper, in this interpretation, is a trans boy. The show never confirms it. The show also never denies it. Alex Hirsch has been openly critical of Disney's handling of LGBTQ content. He has fought to keep queer-coded characters in the show. On Love God, there was a scene in the script that described a few random couples in a diner falling in love through the power of Cupid's magic. When one of our storyboard artists presented the scene to me, she'd made one of the couple's two lovable old ladies. It was sweet and casual, and I knew instantly that it was going to turn into a huge fight with Disney, so naturally I left it in. The two old ladies in the diner. They appear for less than a second in the episode The Love God. Hirsch fought Disney to keep that scene in. He won. It is one of the earliest gay couples shown on Disney Channel programming. The whole queer subtext of the show, the readings that fans have built over the years, the open-handed treatment of identity, all of it traces back to that creative team making fights at the executive level to put softness on screen. In 2022, Hirsch was one of the few creative members to call out Disney's hypocrisy and poor handling of LGBTQ+ content across the company. He left Disney, he moved to Netflix. He has been vocal about his frustration with how the company handled animation in general and queer animation in particular. That context matters when you watch Gravity Falls now. The fact that the show contains as much warmth and ambiguity as it does is partly because the people making it were fighting for every scene. The town has real fans WHO moved there. There is a town in Oregon called Boring. It is real. It is a small town. Hirsch and his team have said the visual style of Gravity Falls is inspired by parts of Oregon, including places like Boring, the Redwood Forests, and roadside attractions like Confusion Hill in Northern California. Fans have made pilgrimages. They have gone to the Pacific Northwest with a checklist of locations that look like Gravity Falls. They have taken pictures next to the trees. They have stayed in cabins that look like the Mystery Shack. There are entire Reddit threads dedicated to mapping the fictional town to real geography. Then there is Confusion Hill itself, the roadside attraction in Piercy, California that inspired the Mystery Shack. After the Cypher Hunt ended, and the Bill Cipher statue was eventually moved there, Confusion Hill became a real-life shrine. Fans drive hundreds of miles to take a photo with the resin statue of the show's final villain. The show has, in this small but real way, changed tourism in a corner of the American West. People go because of a triangle. People go because of a show that ended in 2016. The IP is dead. The fans are alive. The pilgrimage continues. Rick and Morty Easter eggs. Then there is the Rick and Morty connection. Justin Roiland, the co-creator of Rick and Morty, voiced Blendin Blandin in Gravity Falls. Alex Hirsch and Justin Roiland were friends during the production of both shows. The two shows reference each other repeatedly. Gravity Falls features cameo appearances from characters in other popular cartoons such as Rick and Morty. In one episode of Gravity Falls, when the rift breaks for the first time and weird interdimensional debris falls from the sky, you can see Rick and Morty themselves falling through the rift. A small Rick, a small Morty, both of them tumbling into Gravity Falls for a fraction of a second. In Rick and Morty, there are corresponding cameos of Gravity Falls characters in the background of interdimensional shots. The two shows treat each other as part of the same wider multiverse. Fan theories have run wild with this. The most extreme version says Gravity Falls and Rick and Morty are explicitly canon to each other. The less extreme version says the writers liked each other and dropped friendly winks. Either way, the cameos are real. They are in the episodes. You can pause and see them. They are not jokes the audience invented. The comics, the book, and the outro. After the show ended in 2016, the canon kept expanding. There was Gravity Falls Journal 3, a real-life replica of the journal Dipper carries through the show. It is a book you can buy. It is hundreds of pages. It has Ford's notes, McGucket's annotations, Dipper's late-season additions. It expanded the lore of the show by maybe 30% in one release. Then there was Gravity Falls, Lost Legends, a graphic novel released in 2018 which told 4 side stories from the show. One of them, Face It, dives into Pacifica's backstory. Pacifica is shown to be obsessed with her looks as she was raised by parents to be perfect no matter what, and that beauty is everything. The comic gives her the kind of psychological depth that the show only hinted at. Then there was the Book of Bill in 2024. We have already talked about it. It is the deepest expansion of the canon. It is told from Bill's perspective. It includes the Bros' secret code the Cypher fans had been trying to crack for years, finally laid out so we can decode old messages. When the main characters discover the Society of the Blind Eye's memory wiping for the first time, McGucket uses his ham-bone messaging system to exclaim a censored curse. When you take the symbols used in this sentence and translate it with the Bros' secret code from the Book of Bill, it comes out as "Oh Disney." Oh Disney, McGucket's censored curse in the Season 2 episode that originally aired on Disney Channel is the show creators' barely disguised complaint about Disney's censorship. The joke was sitting there in plain sight for 9 years before the Book of Bill gave us the key to read it. That is the patience of the show. That is the patience of Alex Hirsch. He hides a joke about his own network in 2014. He gives us the decoder ring in 2024. He trusts his audience to still be there. He is right. The audience is still there. The energy of an unfinished show. There's a question that the fandom keeps asking. Is the show really over? Hirsch ended Gravity Falls after 2 seasons on purpose. He has said in interviews that he wanted to avoid seasonal rot. He wanted to leave on a high note. He did not want to be the cartoon that limped through a 5th season because the network paid for it. He ended it. He moved on. But the lore keeps growing. Journal 3 happened. Lost Legends happened. The Book of Bill happened. Bill is in the Theraprism. The axolotl is real. The portal is buried under the shack. The shapeshifter is still in the bunker. Mabel and Dipper are now young adults somewhere in California. Stan and Ford are on a boat somewhere off the coast. It's kind of cool when series leave a mysterious ending where you can believe that maybe the villain is still out there somewhere, biding their time, regaining strength before they make their grand return. Even though the series has ended, perhaps it could be revisited sometime in the future when Dipper and Mabel are kids and they have to return to Gravity Falls to face off against Bill Cipher yet again. There is no announced sequel. There is no spin-off. There is no movie. The fandom keeps asking. Hirsch keeps not saying. The Book of Bill leaves the door cracked. The axolotl's poem says a different form, a different time. Bill in the book is already trying to break out of therapy. So the show is technically over. The story might not be. That is the magic of Gravity Falls. It is a finished thing that does not feel finished. It is a closed loop that has a thread hanging out of it. You can pull on the thread for the rest of your life and you will never run out of new things to learn. Now, settle deeper. We have come a long way. We have walked from a beach in New Jersey to a portal under a tourist trap. We have watched a triangle burn his own dimension and try to burn ours. We have watched 2 old men make a circle of hands and then ruin it with an argument. We have watched a 12-year-old girl bring her uncle back from oblivion with a scrapbook. We have walked the cipher wheel. We have read the credits. There is one more chapter. One more passage through the trees. One more handful of facts to whisper before we let you sleep. We are going to tie it all together. The big themes, the quiet ones. The truths the show was really about underneath the gnomes and the unicorns and the laser tag with reality. Because Gravity Falls, in the end, is not about Bill. It is not about the journals. It is not about the portal. It is about a family and the cost of keeping them together. What the show was really about. Strip away the triangle. Strip away the portal. Strip away the gnomes, the unicorns, the manitars, the bottomless pit, the wax figures, the time travelers, the dream demons, the prison bubbles, the henchmaniacs, the apocalypse mech, the giant talking salamander. What is left? A boy and a girl spend a summer with their great uncle. The great uncle is hiding a secret. The boy and the girl find the secret. They help him fix what he broke. They go home at the end of the summer changed. That is the show. That is all of it. The main relationship in the show is 100% Hirsch's from his own childhood. Dipper is Alex, Mabel is Ariel. The relationship between the twins, the bickering, the loyalty, the way they will throw themselves in front of any threat for each other, that is real. It came from a real brother and sister in a real family. Everything else in the show is decoration, beautiful decoration, layered decoration. Decoration that earns its place. But underneath the decoration is just a small story about a small family. That is why the finale hits so hard, because the finale strips it back. The grand cosmic war between a trillion-year-old god and the residents of an Oregon town comes down at the very end, to a brother giving up his memories so his other brother can come home, to a twin sister opening a scrapbook for her great uncle, to a kid who is no longer a kid sitting on a bus seat next to his sister going home. The supernatural is the setting. The family is the story. The things we never knew. There's a quiet truth about Gravity Falls that becomes obvious on rewatch. The show is full of things the show never explains. The carpet pattern in the Mystery Shack resembles the symbol on Bill Cipher's bow tie. We know that now. We did not know that in Season 1. The show never sat us down and told us. It just hung the symbol on the floor and let us walk on it until we noticed. The hidden journals throughout the series, 3 hidden journals containing important information about the town's secrets. They often provide clues to solve mysteries. 3 journals, 1 under the shack, 1 in Gideon's possession, 1 in the bunker. The show does not tell us where each journal is until it wants us to know. We have to find them with the characters. The Pit Cola drink, in several episodes, characters can be seen drinking Pit Cola, a fictional soda brand with a distinctive logo. Pit Cola is everywhere. Stan drinks it, Wendy drinks it, Dipper drinks it. The cans are in the trash. They are on the shelves. They are in tour bus windows. Pit Cola is the in-show Coca-Cola. The pit is also a pun. A pit, a bottomless pit. The pit shows up as its own episode in Season 1. There is a connection that the show never spells out, but that fans have written about for a decade. The character cameos. Gravity Falls features cameo appearances from characters in other popular cartoons, such as Rick and Morty, the Rumble McSkirmish arcade game. In one episode, there is an arcade game featuring a character named Rumble McSkirmish. This game later appears in another show created by Alex Hirsch, called Dipper's Guide to the Unexplained. Dipper's Guide to the Unexplained is a series of short web episodes Hirsch produced before the main show. Rumble was a side joke from a short. He made it into the show as a real character. The whole arcade game comes to life episode Fight Fighters runs on a joke Hirsch made years before the show existed. The Scary Oak episode. In the episode titled Scary Oak, the opening scene features a sing-along of the theme song with various characters from the show. The first episode of Season 2 opens with the cast singing the theme song. That moment is the show acknowledging that it has come back after a year off the air. The first season finished. The fan base waited. The second season starts with a karaoke version of its own theme. It is the show waving hello to its audience. The Schmebulok running joke. Schmebulok is one of the gnomes from episode 1. He only ever says one word. His name, Schmebulok. He says it in episode after episode. He never says anything else. By the finale, the joke pays off. Schmebulok speaks a full sentence. It is one line. The audience cheers. The show has been setting up the punchline for 40 episodes. That is the texture of Gravity Falls. Every running joke pays off. Every prop becomes a clue. Every quick gag has a punchline 3 seasons later. The show treats its own jokes the way it treats its own villains. With respect, with patience, with the understanding that a thing planted in Season 1 will bloom in Season 2. The Stan and Ford Ghost Project. There is one more behind-the-scenes detail worth knowing. The voice actor of Stanford Pines, the brother who comes through the portal in Season 2, is J.K. Simmons. J.K. Simmons, the same J.K. Simmons who plays J. Jonah Jameson in the Spider-Man movies, the same one who won an Oscar for Whiplash. He is one of the most respected actors working in Hollywood, and he showed up to voice an animated character on the Disney Channel because he loved the show. J.K. Simmons voices Stanley. Wait, that post got it wrong. Simmons voices Stanford, the brother who comes out of the portal. Stanley is voiced by Hirsch himself, the same actor who has been voicing the character we knew as Grunkle Stan for the entire run of the show. So in the second half of Season 2, the two brothers are voiced by two different actors. Hirsch keeps the gravelly, cynical Stanley voice. Simmons brings a sharper, smarter, more clipped voice for the real Stanford. The audience can finally hear the brothers as two different people. They never used to be different to us. They are now. The voice acting is part of the reveal. Hirsch voices Grunkle Stan, Soos, Old Man McGucket, Bill Cipher, the Gnomes, and many others. He is the voice of half the show Stan. Soos, McGucket, Bill, the Gnomes, every major Pines family ally, and the main villain. It is one of the most prolific voice performances in animation. Each of the characters that he voices sounds vastly different. Gravity Falls alone displays his sheer range and talent. Grunkle Stan is portrayed as a gruff and raspy old man voice. Soos Ramirez is portrayed as a slow-paced, nasally voice. Old Man McGucket is portrayed as a fast-talking old man. Bill Cipher is portrayed as a high-pitched teenage voice. The man wrote the show. He created the show. He directed parts of the show, and he voiced half of the show. That is a level of authorial control over an animated series that almost no creator gets. It is also why the show feels so coherent. There is one voice in the writing and almost one voice in the casting. Everything is filtered through one person's brain. It makes the show feel handmade because it was why the show matters. Gravity Falls aired from June 15, 2012 to February 15, 2016. 2 seasons, 40 episodes. 20 to 24 minutes each. That is less than 15 total hours of television. Less than a single binge weekend. A small show. But it changed animation. After Gravity Falls, every animated mystery show that came out got compared to it. Steven Universe, Over the Garden Wall, The Owl House, Amphibia, Infinity Train, Hilda, all of them owe something to Gravity Falls. The serialization, the arc, the willingness to trust kids with darkness, the cipher culture, the fan-creator feedback loop, the way the show treated its own continuity like a sacred object. Dana Terrace, the storyboard artist who worked on Gravity Falls, went on to create The Owl House. Hirsch was a voice actor and creative consultant on The Owl House. He voices Hooty, the talking door of the witch's house. The Owl House is one of the most critically loved animated shows of the last decade. Its DNA is Gravity Falls' DNA. Its team is partly Gravity Falls' team. The show that came after the show is Family. Matt Braley, another Gravity Falls director, went on to create Amphibia. Shion Takeuchi, a former Gravity Falls writer, created Inside Job for Netflix. The Gravity Falls writers' room turned out to be one of the great farm teams in animation history. The people who came up under Hirsch went on to make some of the best work of the next decade. So Gravity Falls is not just a show, it is also a school. A school that trained a generation of animation creators to take their audience seriously, to hide the deep stuff in the background, to plant a clue in Season 1 and pay it off in Season 2, to respect a 12-year-old viewer's ability to handle a story about loss and memory and a god who burned his own home. That is the legacy. Not the merchandise. Not the streaming numbers. The legacy is the next generation of shows that exist because Hirsch and his team made 40 episodes that proved a Disney Channel cartoon could be this good. The final moral: if you sit with the show long enough, you find a thread that ties it all together. The thread is about memory. Memory is what Bill is trying to destroy when he attacks Ford's mind. Memory is what McGucket has been erasing from himself for 30 years. Memory is what Mabel is trying to freeze inside her bubble. Memory is what Stan gives up at the end of the show to save the world. Memory is what Mabel gives back to Stan with her scrapbook. The whole show at its center is about the cost of remembering and the cost of forgetting. Stan remembers everything. He spends 30 years trapped in a memory of his brother. He cannot move forward because he cannot let go. McGucket forgets everything. He spends 30 years erasing the things he saw because he cannot bear to carry them. Both of them are broken by their relationship with memory. Both of them are healed when they finally let someone else in. Stan opens the journals to Dipper and Mabel. He lets them see his past. He stops being alone in his own head. McGucket lets the kids return his memories to him. He stops hiding from his own brain. The two of them at the end of the series sit in the rebuilt Mystery Shack and live with their memories instead of running from them. That is the moral. Not subtle, not loud, just there. The show is saying that you have to remember the people you love, and you have to let them remember you, even when it hurts, especially when it hurts. The Pines family fractures 3 times in the run of the show. Stan and Ford fracture as boys. Dipper and Mabel fracture during the future episode. Stan loses his memories at the end. Each fracture is repaired by an act of being seen. Stan saves Ford from the portal. Dipper chooses Mabel over the apprenticeship. Mabel sits with Stan in the gift shop and shows him who he was. The triangle is defeated by sight, by being seen, by a family looking each other in the eye and refusing to let go. That is why Bill loses. Bill is the god of secrets, the god of hidden things, the god who needs you to not see what he is. The Pines family wins because they finally see each other. The blindfold comes off, the triangle disappears. The last things to know. Here are the last quiet facts to take with you as you drift. The show was made by Disney TV Animation. The theme music was written by Brad Breek. The first season aired on the Disney Channel. The second season moved to Disney XD. The whole show is still available on Disney Plus and on physical media for anyone who wants to walk through it again. Hirsch left Disney to work with Netflix on a new animated series, which has been in development for several years. The fans are waiting. The fans are always waiting. Some of them have been waiting since 2016. Some have been waiting since they first decoded a Caesar cipher in 2012. The Mystery Shack still stands. In the canon of the show, somewhere in Oregon, Seuss is running it. He has Melody. He has a happy life. Stan and Ford are off in the Pacific on the Stan-O-War 2 hunting sea monsters together. Dipper and Mabel are back in California going to school, growing up, becoming whoever they were, always going to become. Wendy is still in town. Pacifica is still in town. Poorer than she used to be. Kinder than she used to be. McGucket bought the Northwest Mansion. The dump engineer owns the manor on the hill. The town is fine. The triangle is in timeout. The axolotl is watching. Stan keeps the salamander in the fish tank. The salamander watches everything. The salamander never blinks. And somewhere in the forest, on a tree in a clearing, a stone hand reaches up out of the ground. The hand belongs to a body that used to be a god. The hand will be there forever. The forest will grow around it. Other gods in other dimensions will pass it by and read the warning carved into the dirt. He was here. He almost won. He will not be back, probably. That is Gravity Falls, the whole show. 2 seasons, 40 episodes, thousands of hidden details. 1 axolotl, 1 scrapbook, 1 family, 1 triangle that thought he could eat the world, and got beaten by 2 old men in fishing hats, and a girl with a glitter cannon. Goodbye, Gravity Falls. That is what the final opening credits whispered when you reversed the audio. The show said goodbye to itself before the last episode ever aired. It told you in a code you had to translate. It tells you again now, every time you watch the credits roll. Goodbye, Gravity Falls. Sleep well. Tomorrow the journals will still be there. Tomorrow the gnomes will still be in the bushes. Tomorrow Suze will still be running the shack. The triangle will still be in the Theraprism, doing arts and crafts under fluorescent light, plotting his return. You can rewatch the show whenever you want. The town will be waiting. The summer of 2012 never ends in there. It loops. It loops the way a good memory loops. The kids stepping off the bus. Stan in his fez. The forest in the background. The first journal hidden in the hollow of a tree. It is all still there. It will always be there. Goodbye, Gravity Falls. Sleep tight.